NBA slate. We got 14 games. This is the day before Thanksgiving. Historically, been one of my best days. And it's 11:22, which is my lucky numbers and everything. So hoping for a good result going into the Thanksgiving tomorrow. Sheets, how you doing? And any overall thoughts on the slate? I could ask you that, but there's 700 games and a bunch of question marks.
There's 700 games, 100 question marks. I mean, listen, I'm not greedy. I mean, I just hope that whatever news that there is, we get most of it before lock. I guess I maybe that's asking a little bit too much, but that's my goal.
Yeah, that's exactly. This is it's going to be tricky, guys, and just I do think this is a day where people don't always bring their best effort, and late swapping is probably pretty valuable. I also have things I have to do this afternoon, so I'm going to try and figure it out. But all right, let's get into it. Let's call up your screen and we'll go game by game. I think it's the best way for us to sort of figure out what we want to do.
Yeah, let me. How again do I pull up my screen? This is how off the grid I am right now. All right, here it is. Entire screen. Okay. I guess we'll just start game by game, and I'll just see who projects well. And again, this is a very early look, and everything changes, and the usual disclaimers. But we can just start off with Washington and Charlotte, and we got LaMelo Ball is rating to be one of my favorite plays today. 10,200, perfectly reasonable. Should be a pretty fast-paced game and projects well as a result of it. Current ownership seems relatively tame, but like I said, it's a 14-game slate, so I imagine that the ownership's not going to matter too much. But then on like the Washington side, I get like all kinds of value like popping up here. I don't exactly get it. Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm getting a 6.7x projection on Daniel Gafford, which is corresponding to a 55% ownership projection.
Yeah.
I'm getting a pretty good point per dollar projection on Demi Advia, which is corresponding also to 20% ownership projection. And Jordan Poole at 6,300, like almost like 5.5x on him. Is anybody out for Washington, or is just like a fast-paced game, and that's why these guys are all whatever?
No, they lowered everybody on Washington's price, except for Kuzma, and that's it, pretty much it, and Koulibaly. Part of the problem is, so the reason they lowered their price is because the minutes played they're just really spreading it out. We sort of pointed it out earlier in the year, which is why I was never a big fan of guys like Kispert. You know what I mean? When he was showing up his value, they just have a lot of bodies, and they do different things every game. Gafford is, I mean, look, he's also played against this, he had a terrible game where he played like no minutes and a really good game where he played 30 minutes, put up 33 against the same Charlotte team. Charlotte does play Mark Williams, so they're going to have a big out there most of the time. Look, Gafford is definitely the preferred play of the game for me. I love this as a game stack. I think that you could play LaMelo with one of Poole or Kuzma with Avdia and Gafford. I think you could use Tyus Jones. I think this whole game is basically very in play, especially on the Washington side. But I don't mind, and even like Gallinari is like in play. I just think there's probably other better value options. But LaMelo is the run back, or Miles Bridges 7,200 is probably not too much now that he's starting and playing a million minutes. Gafford is in play. I think Gordon Hayward I would fade out, but like Brandon Miller. There's a lot that looks pretty good here. So I have this as a first look as one of the games I want to target today, one of the highest totals in the slate. But I still want to see how things even out because I have a feeling these early projections are a little bit exaggerated.
Well, you touched on one guy that I forgot to bring up and you answered my question is whether you think Miles Bridges is too much 7,200. I don't know. I have as one of the top point per dollar plays on the slate, even at 7,200.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems kind of dirty to like just overstack this first freaking game, but I don't know. At least I know all these guys are playing. Like I don't know. And then if I do that, who's going to be out in the late game? Well, it's not even late games. I mean, it's not like it's like a 10 o'clock game. It's like 8 o'clock games.
Right. So it's not like you're missing that much, most likely, although we don't know.
Yeah, but we don't know.
But
I like all this stuff, though.
Me too. And I just want to point out one thing about stacking in games. It's a lot better to stack when you have more of these cheap pieces. I know that sounds obvious, but like yesterday there was a game between, who was it, Atlanta and Indiana.
Yeah.
And only 3 players exceeded their value. And it was 157 to 152 was the final score. Just an interesting thing to know. Of course, in that situation, what happens is that's why I call that a stack. Like if you played Trae Young and Halliburton yesterday, probably made a ton of money. Right. And that would have been the way to stack it. So this is a game that I like stacking more the pieces, and I don't think I'll have any lineups that will ignore this game, at least at first look, which is crazy to say on a 14-game slate, but they just look too good. All right, let's move over. What you got next? Denver, Orlando?
Yeah, I have Jokic versus Orlando.
Jokic versus Orlando?
That's what I have here. Yeah, so Jokic, it's going to score 65, I guess, or more.
He doesn't get ejected again. What was that?
He doesn't get ejected again. I played a non-Jokic lineup in the Monster on FanDuel. I was competitive right till the end. They got like 4th or 5th or something like that. Really? Yeah, fortunate the guy gets knocked, throw it out of the game. But listen, he's a top projected guy, as he probably will be on most slates. He's priced pretty healthy, so you don't have to play him on a huge slate either. I don't know what else I'm really getting from this game, though. I don't see anybody from either Denver or Orlando really projecting all that well. So I don't know. I guess I'll just pass. I don't know.
Early in the day, this feels like an easy cross-off. Now, if we get a bunch of guys who are 3K playing today because guys don't want to miss, the night before Thanksgiving and whatever, going home with their family, whatever it is, then Jokic all of a sudden goes in play. It's also not like it's a good matchup in the sense they don't really have anybody that can guard him. It's a bad matchup in that Orlando plays slow and plays pretty good defense overall, but they really have nobody to match up with Jokic. So, Batadze and Wagner is just not going to work. Wendell Carter would be at least a little bit of help, but maybe Batadze can at least put a body. But as of right now, I've got nothing. If you end up on Franz Wagner, I wouldn't hate that, but nothing I'm really into that game.
This is a weird slate. I'm looking at where my top guys are ranked, and with the exception of the Washington game, there's only a couple of games that I even finding good stuff, and they're teams that I usually don't want to play usually. So
well, that's great. This is make a big slate small, right?
Yeah, we'll be done by 8:00. That's like anyway, Milwaukee at Boston next. A little bit of Drew Holiday stuff going on here, maybe. Even though they're at home, I imagine he's kind of pumped for this game. Giannis, I guess. He's been putting up good scores. If you don't play Jokic, he's a pretty good spend. I think I'd rather just play LaMelo though. But Giannis is going to be low owned again. I don't know. It's not I've made worse plays. Tatum 10-3. I don't know. I just prefer all the other spends a little bit better. So it's another game where I'm probably just going to be off of most of this.
So just wanted to point something out. So Giannis is not even questionable or anything today, but he's missed 2 of these games, and those were, of course, the stacks that you ended up, winning tournaments with on these nights in the past. So just wanted to throw that out there. I think they get up for this one. The Bucks haven't been, nearly as good as people expected. The Celtics clearly look like a favorite. I have a feeling both he and Lillard get up for this one, and I think they're both actually very, very interesting as tournament plays. And they'll be unowned. I can definitely talk myself into playing those guys. And as much as people could say, oh, they can bottle up Giannis, they can do all this. You get a psyched up Giannis who's sort of turned it around and really been on fire lately. By the way, so has Lillard. Lillard's been terrific for the most part outside of that last game. But so I think that those 2 are kind of interesting tournament plays. And with a fully healthy Boston team out there, I just having a hard time. The one thing is there is a chance Tatum would sit here. If he sits, then you might be looking at like Giannis with a stack of this game. So while it may not seem like that appealing right now, I could see by the end of the day, it might be like a game you have to target, because if Tatum is out, you're going to want at least one piece, probably multiple pieces from Boston. And but for what it's worth, Milwaukee's just been playing at a crazy fast pace and not been playing any defense. So, all right, what do we got next up, Sheets? Is it Chicago? Okay, no, it's not Chicago.
I have Brooklyn. Atlanta.
Brooklyn, Atlanta. My fault. Yes.
As I fire up Saber Syncs, I'm going to do a sample build in a few minutes. Yeah, I mean, finally getting maybe a guy or two from this game. I mean, Trey 9,200. I mean, I don't know. Brooklyn. All right, so Cam Johnson 5,700. That's something. Right? That's a play of some kind. So I will throw him into the mix. So Cam Johnson is the preferred play from this game, and that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, if you could give me some minutes for Nick Claxton, I'd be really happy to play Nick Claxton here, 5,900. But I just think the minutes have been all over the place. I have Claxton actually as my favorite play here. If you're going to have what ends up, let's just say he ends up chalky with Cam Johnson, I think he's being over projected for what it's worth. And I still go back to, though, Atlanta's been playing also at a fast pace and not been playing great defense. A guy like Dinwiddie or Bridges, I think they're all interesting, but I'm not really getting to them either. And that's okay on a big slate. But I have a feeling that maybe I'll reconsider this one by the end of the day. But as of right now, nothing that really stands out to me that I really want to play here. Trey is always in play at 9,200 at home, and Jalen Johnson's been really good. But I think I'm probably off this game, which feels a little weird because it's a pretty good game. Cam Johnson is fine, but it takes him hitting shots to get to his ceiling. He can get steals and stuff like that also, but I'd rather take Claxton, who's going to get the rebounds. I'd rather take Dinwiddie, who they may need to initiate the offense, or Mikal Bridges, in the same vein. But I just, I have all those guys as just mediocre plays, to be honest with you. I think they're being a little bit over-projected early in the day.
So,
all right, go ahead.
Toronto, Indiana, I mean, to piggyback off of your point about the Indiana-Atlanta game, a couple of other from last night, a couple of other little bits of trivia there. I wasn't able to 100% confirm this, but no one's proved me wrong yet, is that 251-point total was the highest total in at least 25 years. I don't know when they even started tracking them, but I imagine that some of those old Nuggets games back in the 80s, maybe that was higher. But since they started tracking this stuff in 1990 or 2000, that was the highest total, and they covered the over by 50 points.
Yeah,
I mean, not in overtime. It was not even remotely competitive as far as the over, even with the 251 points. And now Indiana just kind of runs it right back against Toronto. So I think I kind of want to do some of that from Toronto. I want to play some Siakam and what's now becoming sort of not the hated play, but whatever. But Scotty Barnes 8,600. I'll go right back to that. So I don't know. So Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam in this Indiana Harlem Globetrotters environment. I would take a shot at that. Not really getting too much of the Indiana side. My top point per dollar player over there is Buddy Hield. But I'll stick with those Toronto guys rather easily, actually.
Yeah. I don't know which. I'm having a hard time. I think that Pascal is probably a reasonable guy, but it's very weird to me that because of recency bias that he's now the trendy guy, not Scotty Barnes. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I actually have all of them as totally in play. Indiana just plays so fast. It's kind of interesting to see what happens though. Usually, a team you get to be part of a 300-point game, and I don't know. You'd think that they would slow them down, but they do play a lot of guys. Anyways, I have it ranked Siakam, Barnes, OG, Schroeder, and I think all of those are decent plays. I think this is every game Indy plays is a reasonable game to stack. Buddy Hield, why he's projecting so high, I'm not entirely sure. I know they put him back in the starting lineup with what's called out. So yeah, it makes some sense, but they put Matherin back to the bench, I guess, right? Yeah. Very strange stuff with what's going on. I'm not really sure what the rotations mean. I just have Halliburton. It feels kind of funky because he put up 78 fantasy points last night and they played a 300-point total, like I said. But look, you can't argue against his upside. Not the greatest matchup, but these guys play just so much faster than everybody. You just want to have exposure to it sort of all the time. So Buddy Hield, Aaron Nesmith on the Indiana side.
Aaron Nesmith, okay.
I think he's a reasonable, 4,200 is just a cheap possible value. I think Hield actually and Bruce Brown would be my two favorites. But look, they play a lot of bodies. They're on the second night of a back-to-back. Going to have to dig a little bit more into all the minutes from last night, but I think they all played a bunch of them, or the main guys played a bunch of them. So I'm into this game a little less than the Washington-Charlotte game, but this is the second game I have to stack so far that we have. I just don't know entirely which guys I want to use yet from Toronto especially.
So you'd think that a game like Cleveland and Miami on a 14-game slate wouldn't be something worth talking about, but you got Donovan Mitchell possibly out again. You got Karis LeVert possibly out again. And if those guys are out again, then the Darius Garland at 7,900 is just gonna keep looking good. So we got to watch the injury news there, and if those guys are out, then you might want to think about the other Cleveland guys also. This guy's actually showed out a little bit.
Craig Porter,
yeah,
he's crushing it, man. He's looking great.
Yeah, you can get on that train. And then on the Miami side, I feel as though I've been saying this for like a long time, but like Bam always looks good, and he doesn't ever get there for me. but he certainly looks good, and that's pretty much all I have. So I have Bam on the Miami side. Got to watch the injury news for the Cleveland side. It feels as though it's not the game you want to go after on a 14-game slate, but if those guys are injured, they become kind of like all those Cleveland guys become pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Just for what it's worth, like the other night when we played, we both had Jimmy Butler in our big buy-in.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, and we were the only two people in the tournament with Jimmy Butler at all. That's pretty. And by the way, I didn't care what the result was.
Is that actually true?
Yeah, he was point.
That's awesome.
% owned or whatever. We were the only ones, and I played Anthony Edwards in the same lineup, and Anthony Edwards was less than 1% also. So
that's great.
Oddly, Jimmy Butler's projecting well at the beginning of the day here. I really can't explain to you why. He's 300 cheaper than he was. Like you said, I think Bam, if anything, and I think that Garland is a very strong play. He had a good game, again, back-to-back, so try to avoid a little bit of it. But I do think Garland is in a little bit of a good – I think they might have even been in overtime last night. I got to double-check that. But I think Garland is my favorite over there. Tristan Thompson is like somehow weirdly projecting on SaberSim at like 20 fantasy points. I don't know why or how, but I just thought I would just mention that.
Which guy?
Tristan Thompson. By the end of the day, that's not even going to be a thing, I don't think. I think it's just like a miss number or something like that. I think that there's a 1 in front of the 9 instead of him getting 9 fantasy points here. But yeah, I think Garland is a decent play, and I think that Bam is a large field kind of thing that you can definitely consider.
Yeah, I don't even have – see, that's why I like doing this. I don't have Tristan Thompson for like any points, which means that like no one else is projecting for anything.
Right, and I think it's just a misprojection, but every now and then there might be a little method to the madness.
Yeah.
All right, what's next here?
San
Antonio?
The Clippers against San Antonio, and they just played this game. And I played both these guys actually in the last game. I played Kawhi and I played Harden and I played George. I played like all three of them in different lineups. You didn't get the full benefit because the game blew out. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I would go back to them, except the difference is this is a much bigger slate. So I guess I'm just not going to get there. I guess I'm just going to pass. Yeah, it feels rough, but then like the Spurs are just, they're the team you can score on. Like I do think Harden remains in play. I think Kawhi remains in play. I think Paul George is in play. I just don't think I just don't think I'm going to end up there with these guys. What I do think is interesting is like, because of the bad game and the blowout and all that stuff, you got Zach Collins all of a sudden, like the other night in the same matchup, he was projected like 8 fantasy points higher than he is now and was 30-something% owned or whatever. Right.
Totally ignored here. The other thing that I've noticed is that, look, at some point, Trey Jones is going to end up starting for this Spurs team. He has one of the best on-off numbers of anybody in basketball. When he plays with Wemby specifically, and they're just trying the Sohan thing out. I don't think they really care if they lose games because they just got to, a terrible start. But some point Trey Jones is going to take the reins a little bit as the point guard until they get somebody else. So don't have anything today. Just wanted to note that. But yeah, this game is probably not going to happen for me. But I feels weird because we were so heavily invested. I don't even think we were wrong. I mean, the score was like at halftime. What was it, like 70 something to 60 or something? I mean, it was a monster score.
It was nuts.
So all right. Anyway, we'll move on to Chicago OKC.
Watch the injury news here. I see Zach LaVine. Oh, he's probable. And I actually do like him a little bit here at 7,300. So that's would be at least this early stage my preferred Chicago guy. And then Shea always has a ceiling, and he's 9,700. But aside from those two kind of like standard type guys, I mean, Vooch looks good, as do most centers on the slate. But there's nothing else that really stands out as far as like injury-based value or any mispricing or anything like that.
I think the Bulls are just at a place where I feel comfortable playing them at this price. You know what I mean? But I mean, you never know. Like, it could be the Kobe White night. Like, he made 4 threes the other night, so he ended up being the one who had a game. Caruso, I still don't know why Caruso doesn't play more minutes. Like, honestly, this guy, the trade rumors out there are that he's going to be traded for 2 first-rounders, which they can't even get Zach LaVine for 2 first-rounders. They can't get 2 first-rounders for LaVine. All of DeRozan, Vooch, and LaVine in this type of pace matchup are interesting because of the prices. But I mean, we have seen Kobe White get to higher usage a little bit lately, and it just feels like a little funky. So yeah, one of the Bulls I'm okay with. I think LaVine or Vooch would be my preference, and I actually think it's a pretty good matchup for Vooch. And like you said, on the other side, really it's Shea. I mean, Dort is so cheap, but I just don't think I want to play him. And then Chet, I love taking chances on Chet and Wemby, but I just don't know if on 14-game slates it's the right time to play that high of a variance thing unless your build is somehow really chalky elsewhere.
But meanwhile, it's a what can it really be just like a 1-game slate? Just that first game? Is it possible?
Well, no. What's going to happen is somebody's going to be announced out, and it's going to change everything.
I would imagine. Right?
I can guarantee it. I don't even want to say it's a possibility because the good news is that I've been wrong once on my guarantees before. Usually I'm right about it, but some star is going to sit. It's the day. I mean, Tatum might be the answer. It's the day before Thanksgiving thing. It's not just that. Like, this is the day where you get these guys sitting quite often. And anyway, just want to point that out.
It's actually interesting. Everybody wants to see their families on Thanksgiving, but everybody wants to play on Christmas.
I know, and it's a little strange, but that's because it's what dominates the market. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think they would want to play on Thanksgiving. I think if there was basketball games on Thanksgiving, they would be really stoked and up for playing for it because they know everybody's watching if there was no football that time. But the day before is a little bit, people are cooking. Everybody's out partying at their old hometowns with their old friends and their high school, college friends, or whatever the hell it may be. I just feel like this is not one they definitely are more pumped for the Christmas thing than this. All right, what do you got next on your list here? Is it Memphis and Houston?
I don't think so. I have Sacramento, New Orleans next.
Oh, God. All these games at the same time makes it district.
Yeah, that's De'Aaron Fox, 9,400 is no. Actually, that's not true. I have Sabonis as my top play. Sacramento here. New Orleans. Zion 8,400. That seems cheap enough to take a shot. Aside from those two guys, there was one other guy, right? Which I got to remember what team he's on. No, not him. Yeah. Oh no, he's on a new team now. We'll get to him in a minute. But so that's it. Just pretty much Zion from New Orleans, and I mean, I'm really probably not going to play him. But Sabonis would be my best play on Sacramento. He is showing only 2% ownership, so I guess that's not bad. But I like Zion, I guess, if I had to pick one from this game.
Yeah, fair enough. For what it's worth, there's 4 players questionable from Sacramento. Murray,
okay,
all guys who play minutes. Lyles, Vezenkov, Duarte. Not tons of minutes, but Murray does play a ton of minutes. So just that would be something that we look for that would open up. Maybe would open up Malik Monk, something like that we could play here, or even Herter, just because that's a lot of bodies that we were talking about. Maybe even Davion Mitchell, honestly, if they lose that many guys. But probably still a little thin. Even I don't really know what to do with it. They got destroyed by New Orleans the other night. So for what it's worth, I'm just going to say that I think Sacramento wins this game. And Zion was going to put up 60 or 70 last time they played. In 29 minutes, he put up 44, I believe, 40, somewhere like that. He didn't even just miss his last rotation. He may there's a chance he could have played a lot more minutes. They pulled him earlier in the third. So I like Zion as a tournament play, but even that not falling into the level of priority for me. Yeah, it's probably just Zion though for me in this matchup. I don't mind the Sabonis call by you, but
as I alluded to earlier, we're going to Minnesota, Philadelphia next. There's a team that I was getting to some guys that I usually don't like to play, and that's Minnesota here. And I guess it's because McDaniels is probably out. So I'm getting Nickeil Alexander-Walker as one of the top point per dollar plays on the slate right now. I mean, he played a bunch of minutes when McDaniels went down last game, so you're presuming it's going to happen again, I guess. And then Rudy Gobert, again, a center, whatever. And then Naz Reid is just super cheap at $3,900. So he's showing up as an okay play. And these Minnesota games usually don't really deliver, but we don't need all that much at those prices. And then on the other side, Embiid's always is always good for a shot. Anything else from Philly? Not really, as far as I'm concerned. So you want to play Embiid, go for it. And those value plays I mentioned, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the top one, and then Naz Reid, I guess.
Yeah, so that's I think that we're there on the same page. I think that okay, so Naz Reid is 3,900. I actually think everybody on Minnesota is in play, which kind of scares me a little bit because you're getting pretty decent projections and a lot of ownership spread out here. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Naz Reid, Kyle Anderson, Rudy Gobert is getting some traction because of the matchup, and they're going to have him because they don't have. Well, I don't know why actually. And then you've got the Edwards and Towns, and not all these guys can get there. So to prioritize them at first look, I would say Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker would be the two guys that I would put in borderline priority list at the top at the beginning of the day, just based on projections. But Kyle Anderson would probably be the next one for me. And of course, as I always mention, Anthony Edwards can always have a game. Tough matchup. So I like Anthony Edwards, especially if the game's going to be close. If I think it's going to be close, I do in this case. So yeah, I'm good with the Minnesota side. I just wish I could get to anything on the Philly side. And if I did, it would be Embiid. Why would we play Embiid exactly in this matchup? And at the same time, maybe that's exactly what we should do. He's 1,300 cheaper than Jokic. He's only 100 more than Giannis. If we get value later, I'm going to definitely consider some Embiid because you're going to have potentially 2 or 3 pieces from Minnesota that look pretty good.
Memphis, Houston, I have next, and Sengun. For all the people who are waiting all the way to the end, is he sitting? Is he sitting? And they're like, oh, he's playing, and you know what else he's doing? He is smashing.
Yeah, of course he is.
Yep. Full 37 minutes. Was in there right to the
back-to-back. How about that?
On the back-to-back, and he was completely the focal point of the offense down the stretch.
If you watch them play sheets, he plays with fire. You know what I mean? He wants to win. He wants to be out there all the time, and they call him Jokic 2.0 these days.
So I'll keep playing him. Other guys in Houston, again, you take your pick between these other guys. I think between the Green and the Jabari Smith and Dylan Brooks had an okay game in the last one, but yeah, this is against his former team. It's got maybe it's something. But I think Sengun is the only guy I really want to play in this game.
We overlooking Santi Aldama as being
I forgot about that. Yeah. So he smashed. I mean, he scored 60 fantasy points. So yeah. He's. I don't know if that price is good, but it's if he scores another 60, it's good. Probably do that.
Nice little 10x.
Yeah, that would be the end of that slate.
Yeah.
And he got 60 fantasy points against the freaking Celtics, which
I know, and they won.
And they no,
they didn't win.
They lost.
I think it was close though, right?
Yeah, no, Boston. Yeah, they missed like a 3 at the buzzer to win the game.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, 40, 38, and 60 in the last 3 games, all of which we will take. Yeah, a game. I could call me a wheel watcher, a game log watcher, but yeah, I'm down. So yeah, okay, I agree. Aldama on Memphis, and then Sengun on Houston.
Yeah, I like Sengun and Van Vliet, and I like Aldama a lot. I don't think everybody else for Houston is gonna like Tari Eason's, gonna be back for this one. He was out the other day. Of course, there's always a chance Dylan Brooks takes more shots, but if he does, he's probably getting pulled from by the coach because he's had more or less than sub 6 shots in a games in his time in Houston in less than a year while he's playing 1 million minutes than he had in his whole career, or that he ever had in a year. Anyway, he just is shooting much less in general. Yeah, I like the Van Vliet. I like the Sengun. Probably splitting them up, but I think that they're okay to play together. Just probably missing a little bit of ceiling. And I love Jabari in general. I just don't know if this is the time it makes sense with Tari Eason back. And I love Aldama for what it's worth tonight. I'm just going to keep going. Yeah, I think you're overlooking Jolly because Jolly's bringing up a question, and I just think he's like, should we play Giannis with Lopez? And I think that's really just because they had a good game together last time. You don't want to try to target one really low productive player, and Lopez would be, in my opinion, I don't care what the final result is. Lopez is a pretty terrible play on this slate. But you're not like looking, oh, well, they're bad against that position. That game might be close. There's 14 games on the slate. It's just really hard to try to prioritize one spend up and one spend middle on the same team against one of the best defenses in the NBA, even if they give up points to that position. I just think it's reaching. All right. Even if they both get there, I don't care. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It's just the way that this breaks up. Is there really not a 56 center player you can find better than Brook Lopez? I would be shocked if you can't. All right. Utah, Portland.
Yeah, I was reminiscing yesterday because I was, when we were talking about that Atlanta-Indiana game, I was trying to think of back, but I used to like that basketball back in the 80s, like these Warrior games and these Blazer games. They would go freaking crazy. So I was thinking about like the old Portland games, like back in this, like pre-Drexler, pre-whatever. And the only thing I remember about those is that they played at the Memorial Coliseum, and the attendance every day was 12,666. That was the capacity, and they would sell out every game. That's it, 12,666. This is what the NBA was back then. You know what I mean? Anyway, these Utah Portland games always delivered. And now we have Utah Portland, and I don't know if I want to play anybody. I have Utah. I guess Kelly Olynyk would be my, gun to my head, best point per dollar play over there. But I'm just kind of inclined to pass on this game.
You got all kinds of revenge options. It didn't work out. Revenge options the other day. It didn't work out with the Lakers. With the Clark, they just got blown out too badly. But I wasn't there for that one. But the THT and the Clarkson, I probably would have been on it. So I'm glad I didn't. Yeah, a lot of things that look okay to me here. Nothing that I feel like I need to do. All the minutes from the last game just sort of throw out the window for Utah because that was a blowout and they just didn't play anybody. Maybe I'll revisit this later. I just can't find anything that quite makes sense to me. John Collins, Jordan Clarkson. I don't know. These guys are all fine, but nothing stands out. Brogdon is doubtful tonight. I just got that.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I'm just looking at him with a doubtful tag. I don't know if that's accurate, but I think he played yesterday, and it would be very strange coming off the injury if he played back to back. Yeah, he played yesterday, and he only played 24 minutes though. So, Saberson has him doubtful. Roto Grinders or NBA has him questionable, and Roto Grinders has him as starting. So, take your pick of whichever projection site you want to go with, but that is a piece of information that obviously would make a difference. I still don't know who I would get to exactly. I guess Skylar Mays is the basic answer, but overall, not really anything for me at the moment in a game that maybe by the end of the day I'll change my tune on a little bit.
All right, so now we're into these two. Starting with the Utah game, we're into these last two 10 o'clock games, and then there's
the 10:30 game.
Right, these last two games, and the last one we'll get to, and you can certainly do something there. But yeah, I've heard that Chris Paul used to play for the Suns. and he's going back there. And yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to play some of that, I suppose. So Chris Paul, Devin Booker, that I don't know. It seems such a stupid thing to do, but I think I just might do it anyway. Durant, Chris Paul.
What's the Booker thing?
No, nothing. Just on the other side of the game. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I didn't know if there was like a specific thing that you.
No. Just nothing. Just Chris Paul and going back to Phoenix. It's gonna project like crap.
I mean, Saber Sim loves him, and for what it's worth, he's been awesome.
Yeah, I don't have him as that great of a play, but we'll see how it develops. But yeah, I mean, if your 8 o'clock games didn't win you all the money, maybe keep a couple of 10, maybe keep a couple for the 10 in the Luka LeBron game, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, from a projection perspective, I don't really see too much. Honestly, I don't really have that great of a projection for anybody in this game. But I probably end up having to take a shot with Chris Paul just because I'm human. That's about it.
Yeah, okay. So let me just point out, like he's put up 43 and 47 his last 2 games, so it's not like totally out of nowhere. It's not a back-to-back for Golden State, which is nice for Paul. He's playing the minutes. The thing that's freaking me out about him is like, how is this guy he had 12 assists in the last game sheets with a 13% usage rate. He had 11 assists the game before with a 10% usage rate. That's almost impossible. Like statistically, that's almost impossible to do. I really don't understand it. So he looks on paper like a good play and things trending in the right direction. And the playing in Phoenix, Phoenix not playing defense is another reason why I'm okay with the play. But it does feel like a little bit reachy. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'll see if I like Chris Paul later today. I don't want to put him in my priority list now. And I don't have anything as priorities for Golden State. I do think at Steph at 9,300 is like a little bit interesting. Again, they don't have anybody really who can cover him. And I think he does take these matchups, semi-seriously. Like there's all kinds of narratives. I mean, he obviously played with Durant, and he's just going to do what he can to try and win. But that might mean, taking like 15 or 16 threes in this game. And that sounds good to me, but that's the only thing I could sort of find here. Everything else just looks like, man, it does seem like one of Durant or Booker get there a lot of the time. I just don't know what to do or which one to go for. I would say that if Booker's out, I'd be happy to go to Durant and Nurkic. But right now, I'm not really getting to much.
Cam Reddish got some ownership yesterday after starting.
He got hurt.
And then he left after just a couple of minutes. So watch the starting lineup for the Lakers, I guess. I don't know who would be the guy to play, if anybody, over there. But listen, LeBron looked like a good play yesterday. He didn't really have to do anything. So I don't know how to respond to that, but I don't think I can afford, Luka and LeBron together. I don't think I could afford Luka and Davis together. But all those guys look like good plays. I mean, you could one-off Luka if you want. You got to make it work somehow. You can one-off LeBron or AD if you want. You know what I played yesterday? I played, instead of Reddish, I played the Austin Reeves, and only got 25 minutes, but he did well. He got 38 points.
Yeah, I would really not look at that box score yesterday because the truth is LeBron actually smashed yesterday. He destroyed it. He played 24 minutes.
That's
right. 40 fantasy points. Yeah. Anthony Davis had 56 in 29 minutes.
Yeah. So I'll probably listen. Sneaky, not even sneakily, but Dallas is Coors Field nowadays. Indiana's pretty brutal, but Dallas too, and I think that LeBron or AD can score a lot of fantasy points here. But for some reason, I think I want to play Austin Reeves also. I don't know.
Okay. I like the price on Reeves, and I actually think he is a really solid player. The thing is interesting is that he kept getting owned because of speculation that LeBron or AD sits.
Oh, yeah.
And they also both played. They barely played last night, and they need to win. So you'd think they would play.
I think so.
So I think so too. And I'm just going to go out on a limb and say this is definitely an ESPN game because I haven't looked yet. But
I would hope so.
There's no way it's not, right? Yeah. Anyway, so I'm in on this. I'm into Kyrie as my favorite play on Dallas. I'll go with my weird old school narrative. I like the idea of Kyrie versus LeBron, or Kyrie, even put AD on the other side. I also don't mind the idea of Luka with either of these guys. So I think this is a really good spot. It's just the problem is I like the Reeves idea because if anybody's out, that sort of gives you something. But like part of the things that you like about the late games is you can sub. Well, there's really nobody to sub to in case LeBron or AD are out. Now, no one's going to end up, I think, playing them at the end of the day. But I don't know, just something I'm kind of worried about. If I'm going to play like one of Luka on one side and LeBron on the other side, or if I'm going to play Kyrie on one side and LeBron on the other side, or AD, you don't have like switching ability if that news comes in late. Hopefully it doesn't come in late. I guess it's because it's an ESPN game. Maybe we'll get the news a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I like this. I have one of LeBron or AD, one of Kyrie or Luka as a semi-priority. Other guys who stood out the most, like if I was building, base lineups right now, Gafford, Bridges, Garland, one of Reed or Nickeil Alexander-Walker, maybe both even, Şengün, Fred VanVleet, Santi Aldama. I also like the idea of getting one of the, Siakam, Barnes, OG, Schroeder combination because they're a good matchup. One of the, what else do they have? Oh, I think Giannis and Lillard are interesting. Claxton and Cam Johnson, and one of the Bulls. I think that's just sort of like a baseline of where I'm looking at the slate at the beginning. I'll do my early builds and post them on the site. But I think we got some stuff here like that's going to come to us later today. But at the same time, I kind of like this slate early the way that it is. And I like that I only have, 14 or 15 players on my board. Actually, more like 16 or 17. But out of 14 games, that's a pretty small net number at first look.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I mean, this is not so easy, but you could say you could play the Washington game, and then literally nothing else except some random pieces like if the Cleveland news comes in, we got to deal with that. You maybe want to play some of that Minnesota value, okay? Maybe play Aldama. And aside from that, you're at these last two games like playing studs, So you could make this slate small if you want to.
Yeah, and I think the way that I'm probably going to do it, and it's going to be a lot of first and last game stuff for me. The first game's for value, the last game's for the Kyrie LeBron shootout or whatever. All right, Chief, we're going to be back with you.
Yeah, early Saberson builds, by the way, get exactly what I just said. Washington, Charlotte.
They like
Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves. How about that?
Yeah.
So we'll give that a look. But yeah, so we're going to come back and look at the football slate, and we'll do it in a couple of minutes.
All right, sounds good. Good luck, everybody, tonight.